How you feeling, Sheikh? طيب? شفاك الله. May Allah purify you. Ameen, ameen, ameen. La best طهورا. One second. طيب. طيب.
This one? No, this is good? Sure.
طيب. Question I have from last week. Everybody ready?
AA from McKinney, Texas. Is the hadith that says that the ummah will split into 73 sects and those being saved are those who are on the way of the salaf weak?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Question says, is the hadith that says that my ummah will split into 73 sects and all of them will be in hell except for one, and that is the sect that is upon that which, or is upon the way of the salaf, is that weak, etc. Jazakallah khairan for the question. First and foremost is, there is no hadith with that wording. No hadith says all of them will be in the hellfire except for those who are upon the way of the salaf. Then obviously, I know what you mean. You're trying to say, Ma ana alayhi al-yawma wa ashabi, that which me and my companions are upon, which is the way of the salaf, the sahaba, but that wording isn't the prophetic wording. That isn't the prophetic wording, okay? And there's a difference, and it can be interpreted. It's not the prophetic wording. So that's first and foremost. Secondly is, know for sure that this hadith is a very long and extensive topic of discussion among the people of knowledge. And there's some of the ulama who wrote books on it, such as As-San'ani, rahimahullah, Sahib Subad, lahu risala fi hadith al-iftiraq. Shaykh ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, he discussed the hadith in some type of detail, so much so that some people have made a special book out of it, which is in Majmu' al-Fatawa, speaking on hadith al-iftiraq. Ibn Hazm, this one, that one. There are many, many ulama who spoke about this hadith in depth. And the summary of their discussions can be broken down into the following points. Number one, those that deal with the authenticity of the hadith. Is the hadith authentic as a whole or weak? Is the hadith authentic as a whole, but certain parts and additions are weak? Moving away from the authenticity, the meaning of the hadith and the problematic issues that are mentioned in this hadith. All of the Muslims will burn in hell except for a small, minute number. Many of the ulama, they say that's problematic. How can most of the ummah of Muhammad be destined to hell? That's problematic. And then there are other ulama who say that the hadith is authentic bil jumla, in general. Certain additions are more authentic than others, such as hiya al-jama'ah. Hadith that says they will be kulluha halika, they'll be destroyed. Or one version may say kulluha fi an-nar illa wahida, and the one that will be saved, he says hiya al-jama'ah, it is the jama'ah. And they say that is more authentic than the part that says ma ana alayhi al-yawma wa ashabi, that which me and my companions are upon today, even though they do not differ on that part of the hadith being authentic with regards to its meaning. Even if its chain is weak, there's no difference of opinion of the validity of the meaning of that part of the hadith. The saved sect will be that which upon, or that which me and my companions are upon today. Before bid'ah, before fighting, before the thirst and the greed for the dunya, before imitating the kuffar, I wanted to look like the kuffar, before becoming cowardly and fearful of the kuffar, etc. So that's correct. No, one way or another. Everybody clear on this? So I know many of you, you're looking at with like strange faces. Perhaps it's the first time you ever heard this. I've never even thought or heard that the hadith could even possibly be weak, considered to some scholars. And there are reasons behind that. What's important is, the question was posed and I answered the question to the best of my knowledge. These are the scholars of Islam. They have a very long, detailed discussion on this hadith. Some of them deal with the level of authenticity as a whole. Some deal with the level of authenticity partial. And some deal with the actual fiqh al-hadith. And then obviously even more problematic is is what is the jama'ah? And what is that which my companions are upon, my companions are upon today? Okay? Or another issue, it was very problematic today. The Muslims, who is considered Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah? Huh? Is Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah only the Dawah group that say that we're Salafis? Dawah to Salafiyya, Nahnu Salafiyun? Or is from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah the other Muslims that have the general belief of the Quran and the Sunnah, such as Jama'at al-Tabligh and Ikhwan al-Muslimun, and such as Sufis? Do they have mistakes and errors with them? There's no question about that. Every Dawah group has mistakes. Every Dawah group, every modern Dawah group has something that they're practicing from the deen and something that they're totally neglecting and abandoning from the deen, let alone mistakes and incorrect interpretation of Quran and Sunnah. Every Dawah group has some type of strength and some type of what? Weakness. And we never said Ahlul Sunnah, we said Dawah group. We said modern what? Dawah group. A world of a difference between the Salaf al-Salih, the way of the Salaf al-Salih, and the Salafis. There's a word of a difference. Everybody understand this? Modern Dawah movement is not necessarily what it claims to be. People say we're people of Tazkiyah. The Sufis of today, it doesn't mean that they're upon the actual way of wahakadha. So that's first and foremost, huh? So with that being said, brothers and sisters, who is considered to be from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah? What takes a person out of the circle in the realm of the Sunnah? Making a mistake or two or three, that's a very long discussion. And the last thing that I'll say is that there are many people, I would say most people today, do not have a proper understanding of this hadith. And have a twisted and warped interpretation of this hadith, whether it's authentic or whether it isn't. If you're with my group, my masjid, you follow me, you blindly follow my scholar, you're a fanatic from my school, then you're Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and you're Salafi. You don't come to my masjid, sit with me, you don't follow my sheikh, you're not a fanatic to all of my views, aqidah views, fiqh views. No, you can't sit like that. You're not Salafi no more. Because we differ on the issue of what? What happened there? This is a huge problem. And it's widespread among scholars, students of knowledge, du'ats. It's a huge widespread problem. What is meant by that? Ahlul Sunnah. Huh? Orthodox Islam versus non-Orthodox Islam. Shia, Rafida. That's a very, very, very long discussion, huh? Which we do not have the time to get into right now. Perhaps with the ta'ala, we can have a separate lecture or lecture series on it because it's important. But what I want to mention now is beware of being a fanatic and you holding the keys to the door of the Sunnah. You let anyone in you want, and you kick anyone and keep out that you want because of trivial issues and fiqh issues. That's incorrect. Okay, you're not wearing a white thobe, so that's a khata. So you're not Salafi. You're not calling to the Quran and Sunnah. You're not upon the truth. Don't benefit from him. Don't listen to him. So and so, because you're not wearing a white thobe. It's the attitude of many people today. Or last but not least, brothers, for argument's sake, Brother Lutfi made a mistake. Fi'lan akhta. He made an error. What does that mean? All of the years he was overseas, the books he wrote, the class that he gave, they're all now useless and baseless. Discard them, get rid of them. By Allah, I ask you, is that from common sense? Forget the text of Quran and Sunnah. Is that from common sense? For someone to spend 20, 30 years teaching Quran and Sunnah and they make a mistake and they go against someone. Now everything that he wrote and said is useless. And not only does that go against common sense, but what happens when a table is turned around against you, as we see clearly today? We mentioned this before with regards to an oppressive bully. One day, the lion will eat this bull. And if it isn't stopped in its transgression, the next day the lion will become hungry again. And then know for sure a time will come in which that lion will what? Unleash its powerful jaws upon. And history has taught us that. He's a deviant for this issue, for that issue, no problem. Everyone jumps against him, abandons him. 10 years go by, then it's now your turn. And the closest one to me, Abdul Wadud, now I forsake you. You're this, you're that, you have no proof, you have no evidence, so on and so on and so forth. But 10, 20 years ago, you were a mountain. It happens. So we have to be very careful with this, brothers and sisters. And Allah knows best.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. N.A. from Detroit, Michigan. Is wealth earned by working in a country where one is not legal to work haram? Jazakallahu khair wa barakallahu feekum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hayakallah. Is wealth earned in a country in which you're not a legal citizen haram? I wouldn't necessarily say it's haram in light of Quran and Sunnah. It's not necessarily haram in the sight of Allah. It may be illegal in the country in which you're residing in, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the wealth is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially if you have a situation in which for one reason or another you have to be in this country, or you ended up in this country, or you didn't know the rules or the laws, or you weren't a Muslim, or you have to feed your family. All right? We all know the modern lifestyle of immigration. How many people have migrated to America sitting among us right now as we speak? And why did you come to America? Sometime it may have been a necessity, or maybe greed, or one reason or another. So that everyone's situation is different. Everyone's situation is what? Is different, huh? And Allah knows best. Fadl.
There was a hadith where Abu Bakr had led the pack in doing the deeds, funeral processions, visiting the sick. I can't remember the other acts of worship that he did. Familiar with the hadith?
Question with regards to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu leading the pack and this virtuous acts of worship. Visiting a sick person, going to the janazah. Are you familiar with the hadith? So on and so forth. My general advice to you, without answering your specific question, because you know I won't, is that every single day you should have a specific amount of time in which you read Sahih Bukhari, or Riyadh al-Salihin, or Mishkat al-Masabih, the book that you took from me 3 years ago and never returned. But I won't blame you. I was the fool for lending you the book. 3 years ago it was, exactly. Tayyib? So, what's that, 36 months, Sheikh?
Yeah.
Tayyib. So therefore, with that being said, every single day, Yahi, sit down for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, and read a book of hadith from cover to cover. I guarantee you the results that you find, the iman that is boosted, the knowledge, the science that you come across will be shocking. And even if you can't memorize all of the hadiths, if you don't know them in Arabic, you don't read it, but just familiarizing yourself, you'll know where to reference it. And that's because oftentimes an expert isn't someone who knows everything. An expert isn't always someone who memorizes everything. But an expert is someone who knows where to find it in a relatively quick time. A doctor, a lawyer, why do you think he has all those books in his office? He may not know everything, but he knows what? Where to reference it. Oh, 1 second. And he says, your case is the law they made in 1976, such and such. Bang. We're good in court. Well, how can that? So you got to familiarize yourself with the hadith and the sunnah on a daily basis. Hour, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Well, how can that? That's advice to you, Abdul Wadud, and for all of the Muslims. Give a specific amount of time to reading the books of what? Hadith. And enrich your mind. Abu Sa'id. And Allah knows best. Let's go back to the clicker. Tayyip. Next question. We're not answering that either.
No questions from the floor, dude. Just don't lie.
The word wahakada means and so on. Thus, etc. You got me? You say, you know what I mean? Wahakada. You got it? That's what it means. Wahakada. Huh? Tayyip.
Farheen Asif from New Delhi, India. Please inform about the moving finger in tashahhud.
Question is from New Delhi, India. Please inform about moving the tashahhud or moving the finger in the tashahhud. The scholars of Islam have two main views. One is to point with it, and the second is to move it. Move it. Whether you move it lightly or whether you move it heavily. The view that I feel is most correct is that the finger should be kept still. And a person should point with it at the time of dua. So sit down and break down the tashahhud. The entire tashahhud is not dua. At-tahiyyatu lillah. Tayyibat. Assalamu alaikum. That's what? That's what? That's dua. Then what else? Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alayna wa ala. Then whenever you're making dua, point. And when you're not making dua, some ulama say you keep it down. Okay? So I feel that the most correct version of that hadith is to keep the finger still, to point with it and not to move it. If you move it based off of what you were taught from a trusted scholar, many ulama, they hold the view that that's authentic hadith, la bas. If you ask my personal opinion, from my humble studies, is to keep the finger still and not to wiggle it. I don't consider that hadith to be authentic. Wallahu alam.
Question from online. Mr. Samar from London, UK. Can we open up a savings account with banks if we don't take the interest offered? Or should we open up a savings account with Islamic banks that offer point profit from Sharia compliant activities.
Question coming from the United Kingdom with regards to opening up a savings account and not taking the interest from the savings account. Or is it best to put the money in an Islamic savings account and take money from Sharia compliant investments? In general, when a fly flies near a cobweb or a spider's web, it doesn't matter where he lands. If he lands on the web and gets stuck, the spider will reach the fly at one point or another. Obviously, some points of the spider's web are more dangerous than others, in which it is quicker death. But eventually you're in the what? In the web. And that is the general rule of banking. Banks. How much money does the bank make off of investments? How much money is actually profited from investing? And even if the investment is even Sharia compliant, let alone the concept of interest, banks don't just give charity. They don't just help people out of the kindness of their heart. They are out to make what? And a lot, in abundance. Cream. Everybody understand this? They're out to make money. So therefore, where are they making that money? Where does that money come from?
From your money.
This and that and so on and so on and so forth. So the general concept of a bank is problematic in general. Okay? Is there such thing as a riba-free bank? It's a general problem of banking in the modern world we live. Obviously, we have two principles that we're in the middle, stuck between. The first principle is avoiding riba and avoiding unlawful things which are against the Sharia, even if it isn't riba. And then the second principle is the principle of hardship and difficulty. And for a person to say, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to deal with a bank at all, savings, checkings, credit, debit, this, that, he's going to fall into extreme what? Extreme hardship. And oftentimes he may harm himself or harm his family. In the hospital, the funeral home, the supermarket, traveling, making hajj, seeking knowledge, and the list goes on of the hardship that's going to bite you. So if there's two principles that you're stuck between, then you must take some type of moderate middle path. Avoid the clear haram. Avoid directly taking from the riba and do what you have to do which is a necessity, do which is a major benefit from the Muslims that totally dwarfs its harm. Everybody clear on this? And this isn't for every single Muslim. There's certain Muslims with regards to politics, they have to be involved in politics. It's mandatory for Muslims to have a political voice, obligatory. And haram, I'm saying it's haram for every Muslim to say, we don't deal with politics. That's wrong. Because politics are a necessity of life. But that's not for every Muslim. It isn't for every Muslim. Certain people are involved in those politics. And to a certain level and to a certain extent. And the same applies to banking and finance. If you have to deal with the bank, you have to save this type of money, you have to have this type of card, you have to do this, you have to do that, then limit the dealings to the best of your ability and try to keep it as clean as possible and seek Allah's forgiveness and give extra sadaqah. So if you put your money in the bank, that's problematic because you're cooperating upon sin and transgression. You're helping the bank stay alive. You're helping the bank run. You're helping the bank survive. And the Prophet ﷺ, he cursed everyone. Akil al-riba, wa mukilahu, wa katibahu, wa shahidayhi, wa qalahum sawa. He cursed he who eats, he who gives it as food, he who writes it down, and he who takes witness to the contract. Anyone working in a bank is included in that, the ulama of Islam, they say. The security guard, the one who's building the bank, cleaning the bank, maintaining the bank. Because the bank doesn't survive unless they have all of its components. Everybody clear this or not? So with that being said, putting your money in a bank is problematic. Having a debit card, having a checking card is problematic. And the contradictory thing that you find many people saying you can't have a debit card. Well, they were saying this in Yemen. You can't have a debit card. It says haram. So the brother said, how do I get money from America to survive and to live? They say you have to go to Western Union. That's the only permissible deal is Western Union. And when you go to Western Union is inside of a what? Inside of a what, Umar? A bank in Yemen. You're inside of the bank. You're waiting in line. They change your money. They cash your money. Through what? What type of wealth? Abu Sa'id, you think they separate the riba wealth? So you got to be upfront. Everybody understand this? The whole system is tainted with riba. And a hadith that says that there will come a time in which riba will be like dust. Even if you don't touch the riba, the dust will touch you somehow. It's not sahih. But the meaning is authentic. Everybody clear this or not? So that being said, if you put your money in a non-Islamic bank, and even if you avoid the riba, it's still problematic. But saving the money without taking the interest is less problematic. If you find a bank that is literally Islamic and Sharia compliant, or 90% Sharia compliant, or 80% Sharia compliant, that's a high percentage. 75% Sharia compliant, then perhaps that's best. And if you trust and if you feel safe that those investments are Sharia compliant, la best. But if you have doubt, and you feel that the Muslim banks or the Islamic banks are just as riddled with riba as the non-Muslim banks, then don't take it. Then don't what? Then don't take it. So there has to be a balance. Has to be a balance. And you have to fear Allah to the best of your ability. Try to fear Allah the best way you know how. And minimize your dealings with those haram things. That's in brief, and Allah knows best.
Initials OM from Hamadusta, Cyprus, TRNC. Assalamu alaikum Mufti. Can you please describe the type of pride that is allowed and praiseworthy?
Question says, can you please describe the type of pride which is allowed and praiseworthy? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First and foremost is taking pride in Islam. Taking pride in being a Muslim. Taking pride in looking like a Muslim and talking like a Muslim and being identified as a Muslim. Alhamdulillah, I'm a Muslim. Someone asks you on the airplane or the train or at work, why are you a Muslim? The first thing you should say is, why aren't you a Muslim? And not say, I'm a Muslim because ABC don't say. Flip it on them. Why aren't you Muslim? I should be asking you. You're the stranger. You're the weird person. I'm upon the way that Allah made me. The natural way that God made the human being. What happened there? Everybody clear this? That's first and foremost. Another type of pride is in the times of a jihad fi sabilillah. It's permissible to have a certain or relative type of pride. Not to be boastful and bragging unnecessarily, but with the concept of enjoying fighting in Allah's cause and being on the forefront with bravery and courage. Let me at him. Who would challenge me to a duel? Well, how could that? It's permissible. Everybody understand this? These are some of the times it's permissible to have some type of what? Some type of pride. Everybody understand this? So being proud as a Muslim, having pride as a Muslim, one may even convert it to modern day sports. If there's a Muslim playing with non-Muslims and you win and you're very talented, you're very skilled, the first thing you should say in the interview is all praise for Allah. How many people accepted Islam through Cassius Clay? Through Muhammad Ali? When he knocked out George Foreman in the 8th round, rope-a-dope. What's the first thing he said? He started talking about what? What he believed was the truth. He started talking about Islam. He started talking about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He started talking about these things. And Coswell and the other interviewers, if you listen to the interview or watch it, they kept trying to divert him from that. Okay, we got that. But how did you knock him out? And he said it again. Allah is the greatest. I told you I was going to knock him out. I told you I was going to knock him out. Allah gave me the strength. Yo, was scared of him. Everyone's running around scared of Foreman. I told you he was a coward. I told you he was a punk. He praised Allah several times. They didn't want to hear that. They just wanted to hear how you beat him. So he used that opportunity as a platform for what? And taking pride in his what? Religion. Just like other boxers do as well, unfortunately, with regards to Christians and things like this. So these are some of the times when it's permissible, recommended, or maybe even obligatory to take what? Some type of pride. And obviously the word pride is a relative word. I say I take pride in my work. Abdul Qabi, how was the food? I know it was good, but I want to make sure that it was good. I want to double check. And so I take pride in my work. I don't do it sloppily. I'm a professional. That word pride is relative. It's not meaning that I'm arrogant. I'm the best chef. I'm the best cook. No. Inna Allah kataba al-ihsan ala kulli shay. Allah has prescribed perfection over what? All things. The Prophet ﷺ says, فَلْيُحِدَّ أَحْدُكُمْ شَفْرَتَهُ. He says, sharpen your knife. Keep your knife what, Abu Sam? Sharp. That is applicable to every aspect of life. Be a professional. Don't be sloppy and take pride in your work, in your service, no matter what you do. Wallahu alam.
Initial ZA from Toronto. The hadith about the reward of praying the whole night. Does it apply to someone who just prays Isha with the Imam and not Taraweeh? What about if he catches Fajr with the Imam too? Please explain. Jazakumullah khair.
Fadl akhi, we'll come right back to that. Fadl.
Yeah, sitting down with your foot straight out to the Qibla is wrong. Like I'm sitting here, I feel more comfortable stretching my foot out.
The question says, sitting down with your foot or your leg facing the Qibla, is it wrong? There's nothing wrong with that. It's permissible to put your feet towards the Qibla. It's permissible to sleep towards the Qibla. The only time in which I would say in which you shouldn't do it, if it's a cultural reference. If you come from a place in which it's disrespectful to stick your feet in front of someone who's speaking, like many brothers, they do this. I don't think they do it intentionally, but they just don't know. They put their feet in front of you. It's considered rude and disrespectful overseas. But if you're not sitting in a class or you're in the third row, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not haram, it's not disliked, there's nothing wrong with it. But you shouldn't do it if you're sitting directly in front of a teacher. You should fold your legs, sit cross-legged, four-legged, as they say, whatever style, Indian style, however. Inshallah, that's the best thing to do. Allah knows best. Fadl Abu Hussein. Okay, Fadl. Repeat the question, please.
From Toronto, Canada. The hadith about reward of praying the whole night. Does it apply to someone who just prays Isha with the Imam and not Taraweeh? What about if he catches Fajr with the Imam too? Please explain Jazakumullah khair.
Tayyib. Praying with the Imam at nighttime, praying Fajr with the Imam, praying Isha with the Imam, all of these things have different virtues. If you pray Fajr in Jama'ah, has a great virtue, as certain narrations said, as if he prayed at night. Praying at night with the Imam and in Fajr, it's a virtue. If you pray in your house, Lutfan, you choose to make your recommended acts of worship in the house and not the masjid. It's a virtue, whether you're by yourself or whether you have your own congregation. There are different levels. Do what you feel is closest. Do what you feel you can prioritize. Because you have to work, you got to sleep, you have a wife, you have children, you have different things, responsibilities. So the general principle of recommended acts of ibadah is that you have to know how to prioritize. What may be good for you may not be good for me. You may have the ability to stay up all night and study. Me, I can only read an hour at night. I have to write, I have to do this, you have to prioritize based off of your lifestyle. And from time to time, you put in a little extra effort. You go a little crazy. You sacrifice your sleep. You sacrifice your food. You sacrifice your personal relationships. But you have to be balanced and you must prioritize. Everybody saying this? That's why there are different gates of Jannah. Because the human beings by nature are what? Different. Inna sa'yakum la shatta. Allah says your sa'i, your efforts, your endeavors are very contrast. Allah says this. So that's very important. With regards to the ibadat which are extra, with the ibadat which are involuntary, is that you have to learn how to manage and balance based off of your what? Situation. And Allah knows best. Going to work in the morning, feeding your family, providing the Muslims with sadaqah and zakat is no less virtuous than praying at night. If I say I'm going to study all night and not pray Taraweeh, and the next morning people ask me questions, I give them benefit. It's no less what? Virtuous. Rather it could be wahakadha, depending on the situation. And Allah knows best. Fadl.
Is it sunnah to pray Qiyamul Layl or Taraweeh at the home?
Question says, is it sunnah to pray Taraweeh or Qiyam al-Layl at home? My answer is yes and no. Yes, it's a sunnah, whereas Taraweeh is not obligatory. It isn't mandatory. It's extra prayer. It's involuntary prayer. And the Prophet ﷺ has informed us that the best prayer that can be made is in one's home, except for the mandatory prayer. The best prayer to make is in your house, unless it is fard. And the fard is the jama'ah and jum'ah. And the Eid, according to some ulama. So all other prayers are considered to be extra. So the best place to make them is your what? Is your home. That's the yes part. The no part is that the Prophet ﷺ, he prayed salat with his companions in the masjid. He led them in night prayers. He knew that they were there. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he became happy when the Muslims rejuvenated or revived that forgotten sunnah. He says, ni'mal bid'atu hadihi. He says, what a good bid'ah this is, meaning linguistic. Not actual bid'ah hasana. A thing that's from the sunnah that people have left off. So the Muslims, from the time of the Sahaba until now, they've prayed Taraweeh and Qiyam in what? Congregation. Mutawarif. Labas. If you feel that you want to do it every night in the masjid, tayyib. If you feel like you want to do it in your home, that's fine. If some nights you want to pray in the masjid, some nights you pray with your wife and your children, you pray by yourself, that's also what? That's also fine. And we have to never ever realize and lose the scope of the nature, the spirit of Taraweeh. It's a purpose, not to be seen, not to be heard. It's a purpose of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not as a hangout, as many brothers they do. They go to the masjid, they hang out outside, they talk, they look at the sisters, they chat, they mingle. Nah, we're keeping it real. And say, I was at the masjid for Taraweeh. Or they only go to a specific masjid because of a specific qari. He has a beautiful voice, which he may have, alhamdulillah. But are you listening to the Quran and its meanings and reflecting, or just caught up with the melody of the reciter's voice? Also, not making your house into a graveyard. As the Prophet has instructed us, do not turn your house into a what? A graveyard. Make prayers therein. There's no prayers in the graveyard except for the janazah. Except for the janazah. Huh? That's in brief, and Allah knows best.
Yusuf TM from Ontario, Canada. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. What is the meaning of the hadith? Let me not find one of you reclining on his couch when a command I order or a provision comes from me to him. And he says, I do not know. What we find in the book of Allah, we follow it. Question
come from Montreal with regards to the hadith in which the Prophet is quoted to have said what it means in English. La alfayanna ahadakum, he says, let me not find any of you sitting back and reclining in his chair. وَهُوَ شِبْعَانَ عَلَى أَرِيكَتِهِ, whenever he says his belly is full. And he's leaning back. And as a note and a benefit, there's nothing wrong with leaning back. It's not haram or dislike to lean back. Alhamdulillah, sometime someone emailed me, a brother or a sister, and they wanted to give advice. They said, you know, we see that you lean back in your videos and it looks informal, unprofessional. You shouldn't lean back. Jazakallah khairan, thank you for the advice. I don't agree with that. Oftentimes I lean back in a chair because it helps me get into a rhythm. And the more rhythm I'm in and the more comfortable I am, the better I can speak. Everybody understands, let alone that in the Prophet city we saw our Mashaykh doing this. Sheikh Abdul Muslim would lean on his right side. He would fiddle sometimes with some of the tassels of his mishlah. وَهَكَذَا. So sitting and leaning back is not haram or disliked. Especially if you're talking in abundance. You need to be in your what, Harun? Your groove. And only someone who speaks in abundance knows the importance of a what? Of a groove. Any artist of any profession, musician, a cook, a chef, a driver, knows the importance of what? Groove. That's why in basketball, when a team is on a run, they're shooting three-pointers, they're dunking, the first thing the coach does is call a what? To stop the groove, the rhythm, break the momentum. And boxing, when he's jabbing you and sticking you, what do you do? Wa alaikum salam. What do you do? You do what? You hold him, push him, feint. You break his what? As soon as he plans to get into offense, you stop him. Rhythm is the nature of life. So this is a fa'idah for the one who gave the advice, Jazakallah khairan, and for all of us. Clear on this or not? So with that being said, this hadith means, he says that a time will come, and which a person will say is, La adri, la nadri, we don't know. Ma wajadna fi kitabillahi taba'nahu. Whatever we find in Allah's book, we will follow it. This means is that a time will come in which people will look at the Quran and Sunnah indifferently. And the Quran's laws and injunctions must be followed, and the Sunnah's laws and injunctions are totally optional. They don't have to be followed. Or maybe even worse than that, they're baseless, they're fabricated, they're made up, they're all inauthentic, they're all da'if. The Prophet is warning us from this phenomenon. Do not allow me to see any of you in this state. And from the balagh of this hadith, the eloquence, and perhaps from the ijaz, the miraculous nature of this hadith, is that the Prophet says he will lean back and his belly will be full, meaning he will be a person of dunya. A person of dunya. There's no mujahid fi sabilillah that's going to have a full belly leaning back. He's rough and tough. And the closer a person is to the dunya, the closer he is to following his lust and his desires. And the further a person is away from the dunya, the further he is from following his what? Lust and desires. Most of the people today, maybe not all, but I would be willing to say that a bet, linguistically speaking, 9 out of 10 people who leave Islam, who spread doubts about Islam, or inconsistencies about the Quran, it's because of some type of worldly gain or worldly loss. 9 out of 10. They're trying to get close to some dunya, or they're trying to run away from some worldly harm. The reason why you don't have to grow your beard 100% is because the beard is scary. It's intimidating. You look like a terrorist. You like Osama bin Laden with a full beard. So trim it up, shave it down. So when the kafir sees you, he doesn't feel as scared and intimidated. And we get closer to his good and further away from his what? His harm. And these are the people that say these things about the hadiths in the Quran. They're trying to get worldly gain. Certain colleges you can't go to. You're not accepted in unless you do what? You have to get rid of a lot of your Islamic values, and then they'll accept you in their skull and bones society. Everybody understand this? So this is what this hadith means, is that the belly will be full, meaning abundant, eating. The person will be leaning back, meaning comfortable dunya living. And that will be the influential factor in them saying only follow the Quran. That's what this means. And Allah knows best. Where can the hadith be found? We've done a very long, extensive series on the compilation of the Sunnah several times on Hadithdisciple channel. The last time in Toronto in January, we did maybe 6 hours on it. The history of hadith compilation. The last part 3, we spoke on this hadith in detail. Please go back. In brief, the same answer that I gave at the wudu. If you're reading Jami' al-Tirmidhi or Sunan ibn Majah, you will find a hadith in 10 minutes because it's in the introduction. Familiarize yourself with these what? Hadiths on a daily basis, inshallah ta'ala. And Allah knows best.
Associated from Toronto. People cannot complete the tashahhud and salat ala nabi during Taraweeh as the imam gives less time than usual. What is the minimum upon them to finish reading before taslim? After the second question, now that we give the adhan and the mic, what is the hukum/ruling on turning left and turning right, وحياة الصلاة وحياة الفلاح, and putting the fingers in the ear? Jazakumullah khairan.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh wa barakallah feek. As far as the first question, there is no time. The moment that the imam salams out, you follow the imam. Whatever you don't have enough time to do, the imam bears that responsibility. As far as the second question, you continue to move from right to left and continue to put your fingers in the air if you believe that that is a spiritual practice of the adhan. A spiritual practice, something that the Prophet taught Bilal and other companions for spiritual wisdom. If you believe that it isn't a spiritual wisdom, but it's a tangible, scientific reason, putting your fingers in the air makes you do what? Talk what? Huh? Louder. Moving from right to left. Those on the right can hear me say Hayya ala salah, and those on the left can say what? If you believe that it's a scientific reason, then there's no need to put your fingers in the air, nor is there any reason to turn right and left, because the microphone does what? Amplifies my voice for me. Clearness, and we say this all of the time. Fiqh al-nusus. Having a proper understanding of what? Of the hadith. Just because you memorize and study the hadith or a book of hadith with a sheikh, that means nothing. That doesn't mean that you have the proper what? Fiqh of the hadith. Alright, clearness? So if it's a spiritual wisdom behind that, then you do it in 2018. If there isn't a spiritual wisdom, then it only makes sense that you keep your head straight and your fingers out your ear, and the microphone does all of that for you. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear this or not? You with me, Harun? Everybody got me? And Allah knows best. We'll stop here. I believe we've run out of time. Inshallah ta'ala. You got time?
Initials V from Piscataway, New Jersey. Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak. May Allah bless you and accept your fasts and prayers of me. Why are some prayers recited out loud and others aren't?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you as well. And may Allah accept your worship as well. Thank you very much for the dua. In brief, certain prayers are recited out loud and certain prayers are recited silently for a theory that we've been trying to establish. And that is Islam is made to be practiced in an Islamic land. Islam can only be practiced 101% thoroughly and perfectly in the lands of Islam, in which all of the people in this land are Muslim. The Imam recites Dhuhr and Asr silently because most of the Muslims in this land are doing what at this time? Working. They think about the Salat, they have khushu', but they still have to get back to work. Fajr, Maghrib, and Isha, they're supposed to be done working. So their minds are clearer. Their hearts are free from the hustle and the bustle of the worldly life. And they listen to وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. And all of the Muslims know some Arabic. All of the Muslims know the basic tafsir. So when they recite, when they make salah behind the imam, they can benefit from وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. And they can reflect and ponder. Everybody clear this? This is the wisdom of these prayers being recited out loud and silently. Obviously in America, it doesn't matter. You go to pray Maghrib in your butt, back to work. You make dhuhr and you're off. Everybody understand this? So the wisdom, the main wisdom of these prayers being recited silently or out loud is for the people to do what? Reflect. And it makes total sense if you think about it. The prayers that you recite out loud are presupposed in a time in which the people aren't what? As busy. Even if from time to time it's winter time, but general, Fajr and Isha. So your mind is supposed to be what? clear. And it goes to show you that the dunya can have a level of cloudiness on your mind and your heart. Worrying about bills. I have an Uber. My phone is, someone wants to get picked up. How many people you get from Fajr though? What happened to that? Wallahu a'lam. Sallallahu sallam wa baraka ala abdi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad.
Allahu Akbar.